So that brings us to the next element of art, the element of value. Line, shape, form, and space all go well together. And then there's value, and then closely related to that, I would say, is color. With value, our definition is pretty straightforward. Value in art is simply lightness or darkness of an object or an area. And so we've already experimented a little bit with how to create different values. If you look at our handout here, you can create different values if you're using pencil or ink by varying your pressure that you're applying, by varying the pencil lead, or by the placement of your marks, by making your marks more dense or creating more and more layers to create different values. There are two concepts in values that I like to emphasize in our work. One is that of a gradation. A gradation is a gradual change in color, or in value in this case, a gradual change from light to dark. We'll see that in just a second here. Also related to value, we want to keep in mind that when I make a value darker, I'm creating a shade. We use that in terms of color as well. And if I'm making value lighter, I'm making a tint. So shade and tint and gradation are some important concepts as well. If you look at your handout, I've got here a little bit of an outline of a value scale. The reason I put that there is many people are afraid of the dark, as I like to say. They'll oftentimes have a picture or a drawing that is very limited in the range of values. They'll stick with either something that's very light, or maybe all the values are very much in the middle. People don't necessarily naturally get very dark in their drawings, whether that's a fear of making a mistake or what, I don't know. But you want a picture that has a great value range, so we want to work from shadows through middle values all the way to highlights. A very light picture, or part of a picture, we refer to that as being high key. And a very dark picture, or part of a picture, we describe that as being very low key. Now, I'll do a separate video referring to the types of pencils that you could use, but just real briefly, if you had all your pencils laid out on a scale, you'd have B's on one side and H's on the other side, with HB's in the middle. That lead is kind of a middle lead. It's going to make a middle value, and it's kind of hard, kind of soft. It's right in the middle. As you go higher in the H's, the leads become harder and make lighter marks. And as you go higher in the B's, the leads get softer and make darker or blacker marks, if you want to think of B as being a blacker mark. So let's take a look at some examples of artists' use of value. We saw this one earlier. And I like to use this one simply because you can see in the background, the area around Picasso's head, a darker value on one side and a lighter value on another. Now, it's not a very smooth transition in value, so you could kind of argue that it's gradated here, but that difference in value makes that picture look a little bit less flat. Another example of a portrait, a little bit more lifelike here, is Delacroix's self-portrait, and you can see his background also changes. Goes from dark on the right side towards a lighter value to the left side. So those are two examples of how artists can use value to create interest in the picture. Change in value will also create movement for the viewer's eyes too. You'll go from dark to light and back. So that's the element of value.